Hi, and welcome to this week's Reset for Life moment. I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but I am an Iron Man. That's right. Every morning I take a few moments and iron my shirt, sometimes even my jeans. Why do I do this? Because I understand that people take one look at someone and make a judgment call about them based upon the way that they look. Back when I actually had some hair, I combed it and coiffed it and gelled it properly. I made sure that I didn't have any bedhead every day. Why did I do that? Because I understand that people take one look at someone and make a judgment call about them based upon the way that they look. You know, over the past few weeks, I've had Zoom calls with over a dozen people in our church who are from the Black community. I really wanted to check in with them to see how they're doing amidst the racial tensions that this world is facing right now. I wanted to listen to their personal stories of anti-Black racism that they've faced. A number of them told me how that they have faced challenges at school because of the color of their skin. Some were held back a grade, others were good at maths and sciences and also good at sports. But because that they were Black, they were encouraged to go into sports only. Others, because of the color of their skin, were told that they would be best in special ed classes or that they were only good with their hands and not with their minds. Why did this happen? Again, because people take one look at somebody else and they make a judgment call about them based upon the way that they look. It seems to be an age-old problem. In the Bible, 1 Samuel chapter 16, we hear about the prophet Samuel who was sent by God to Jesse's house to anoint the next king of Israel. When Samuel got there, he looked at Eliab the oldest and he automatically assumed that Eliab was to be appointed as the next king. In verse 7, God said to Samuel, "Don't judge by his appearance or by his height, for I've rejected him." The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them, God says. People judge by outward appearances, but the Lord looks at the heart. So Jesse then brought out his next son, and then his next son, and then his next son. But all six were rejected by God. Finally, there was nobody left, and of course Samuel's a little bit confused. He said to Jesse, "Well, is this all the sons that you have?" And Jesse replied, "Well, there's still the youngest, but he's out in the fields watching the sheep and the goats." It's funny that the youngest wasn't even important enough in the family's eyes to be there when the prophet showed up. So of course Samuel sent for him, and young David came, and God spoke to Samuel, and God said this, "This is the one." Samuel anointed him as the next king of Israel. Samuel did what we often do. We often look at people through our natural eyes, but not through our spiritual eyes. Samuel saw Eliab, the oldest and the tallest, and he thought that he saw leadership. The problem with basing things on outward appearances is that they are often subjective. Saul, who was the current king and who was David's predecessor, was actually chosen because he was the tallest, good-looking man in the area. His outside looked great, but his inside was rotten. He was full of jealousy and rage and insecurity. Conversely, though David was a good-looking boy, he wasn't particularly tall, and no one thought of him as the leader because he was the youngest. He didn't actually fit the bill of what we naturally think a leader is. But fortunately for us, God looks past the outside and sees to our hearts. You know, we live in a day and age where we quickly make a judgment call about someone without ever actually really getting to know them. And oftentimes those judgment calls are based on superficial things. Those superficial things may say something about us, but they certainly don't reveal who we completely are. They don't speak to the core of who we are. You know, when God said to Samuel in verse 7, "Don't judge by his appearance or by his height," he was reminding us that who we are actually goes beyond what people see. We have got to stop looking at people and making a predetermination about them without ever really taking the time to find out who they actually are. Skin color should never be the determining factor in whether we like somebody or not. Neither should we make that determination based upon what their hair looks like or what kind of clothes that they wear, whether they're in a wheelchair, if they have a cleft palate, or whether they are thin or vertically challenged. We have got to stop looking at people that look different from us and immediately making the assumption about them. We can do better than that. In fact, I think we must do better than that. We would never want somebody looking at us and making an assumption about us. So let's return the favor and let's actually get to know the heart and the value of that person through our spiritual eyes, seeing them as God sees them. Let me say this really clearly. Every person, regardless of their outward appearance, is loved by God. And as Christians, we need to love them also. Now, for those of you that have a keen eye, you may have noticed something a little off today about what I'm wearing. I intentionally didn't iron one side of my shirt. Come here, take a look. See that? Look at all the wrinkles. I didn't do that really to prove a point. If you noticed it before, you may have noticed and had a hard time listening to the rest of this devotional because you were wondering why I'd go out in public with such a wrinkled shirt. You may have had a hard time getting past the shirt to actually hearing and knowing my heart. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say today, friends. We need to recognize and celebrate the uniqueness that God has given to us with the varying colors of our skin. But please don't judge someone based upon how they look. Get to know their heart. Get to know who they are, not just what they are. That's my Reset for Life word for today. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great day.